Hello everyone and welcome back to the Red Path. My name is Dara and today's video is going to be a little bit different from what we've been seeing in the last couple of weeks. I'm going to be talking about some custom Warband lore, specifically some of the lore for my own army called the Cinder Host. Now every time I go to a Warhammer tournament I like to use this as an opportunity to accelerate the lore of my Warband through the games that I play at the tournaments. For the Manchester GT, I brought a very special list, which was composed of my brand new Demon Prince, which some people may have seen across social media, called The Last Sinner. He was quite popular there, and lots of people were asking for the story behind this guy. So I thought, what better way to do it than make a video about him and his new little warband that lives within the ecosystem that is the Cinder Host. Now, this is obviously a little bit of an experimental video. It's not exactly like some of the stuff we normally do, but if you find it interesting, if you enjoy this type of content, please do drop it a like and a comment down below. It lets me know that you want to see more of these things, and if it gains traction and popularity, I will definitely make more videos like this because I really enjoyed putting this one together. So, without further ado, let's get into the story of the Branded Zealots. This passage takes place following the Cinder Host's initial assault on the Hades Gate cluster, which ended in defeat and the death of Macrolor, leader of the Warband, by the hand of the Primarch Angron. The following entry details the fallout of this campaign and the fate of the Cinder Host. In the wake of Macrolor's grim demise in the Hades Gate cluster, the once proud Cinder Host found itself teetering on the precipice of extinction. The ferocious onslaught led against them by the Primarch Angron and his merciless Ashen Scourge warband had left the Cinder Host shattered and desolate. Those few who survived the carnage emerged from the battle scarred and broken, bereft of leadership and consumed by the haunting spectre of defeat. As the smouldering embers of battle flickered with the promise of imminent demise, a palpable aura of desperation pervaded the remnants of the Cinder Host. Amidst the bleak corridors of the flagship Ember, where shadows danced with malevolent glee, a council of war convened upon the desolate bridge. There, among the echoes of shattered dreams and the whispers of impending doom, assembled a gathering of formidable figures. Amongst this congregation stood the enigmatic Hollow Host, the newly appointed Firekeeper, the sinister Pitmaster, the Apostle Chem Gregor, and the inscrutable Knight of Ash, their silhouettes cast in the eerie glow of dying flames. It was here, in the heart of despair, that the fate of the Cinder Host would be decided. In the suffocating silence that hung heavy like a shroud, judgment then fell upon Chem Gregor, his treachery and folly laid bare before the solemn assembly. He was blamed for the catastrophic failure to deploy reinforcements in the heat of battle, and his insidious machinations had consigned countless warriors to the abyss of demonic possession. He was banished to the forbidden depths of the Ember, where the warp's tendrils ensnared the unwary, and the damned wandered in perpetual torment. Within those accursed corridors where madness reigned supreme, and the very fabric of reality unravelled, Gregor embarked upon a harrowing odyssey into the warp. Through the Stygian depths of the realm of the Blood God, he came upon the dread citadel of the Pale Tyrant, a bastion of malevolence wrought from the blood-soaked annals of history. In chains of brass, Gregor was then brought before the baleful gaze of this bloodthirsty regent, his sins laid bare before the unforgiving eyes of the Pale Tyrant. Branded a traitor and pariah for his insatiable lust for power and betrayal of Macrolor, he was cursed with the mantle of ascension, a burden to be borne until absolution or oblivion claimed him. Clad in the pale white hues of his legion, the traitor's helm bound to his visage, Gregor emerged from this judgment as a fractured semblance of his former self. To his hand was chained the blade of penitence, a grim reminder of his transgressions as he was cast back to the materium, a living testament of what failure cost those who knelt before Khorne. Reborn as a harbinger of divine retribution, Gregor returned to the shattered ranks of the Cinder Host, a wraith of redemption and damnation entwined. There were those who rallied to his tattered banner, eager to embrace the promise of salvation, while others recoiled in horror at the sight of his branded visage, an icon of the folly of ambition. With newfound zeal and unyielding resolve, these followers of Gregor, now named the Branded Zealots, were unleashed upon the Hades Gate cluster, their blades thirsting for vengeance and absolution. Thus, amidst the ashes of defeat, a new chapter in the annals of the Cinderhost was writ in blood and fire. Bolstering these fractured ranks of the Branded Zealots, a congregation of the lost and the damned gathered beneath the tattered banner of Gregor, now named the Last Sinner. Amongst their throng, mortals cast adrift in the maelstrom of chaos sought solace in his presence, while berserker survivors of the initial onslaught on Hades Gate rallied to his standard. Alongside them, the hosts of the Neverborn, twisted echoes of their former selves, saw in Gregor a reflection of their own torment and madness, and were drawn inexorably to his dark aura. Leading the charge into the heart of the inferno, came Gregor, bearing the weight of his sins inscribed upon rune-etched armour, emerged as a dread harbinger of retribution. The blade of penitence, a grim testament to his transgressions, cleaved through the tempest of battle as his unending torment coalesced into a seething maelstrom of mindless rage. Those who fought alongside him, ensnared in the shadows of his malevolence, were suffused with a primal fury, shrugging off mortal wounds with disdain. Amongst the ranks of the Branded Zealots, a cadre of ambitious souls sought to oversee this newfound force of damnation. The arisen firekeeper, bearing aloft the tattered standard of Macrolore, emerged upon this crusade of vengeance, a silent testament to the unyielding resolve of the Cinderhost and an echo of their former glory. The enigmatic Hollow Host, his motive shrouded in silence, strode purposefully into the fray alongside his retinue, their armour adorned with the grim trophies of vanquished foes. None dared question his presence, for the echoes of his past deeds resonated with dread certainty, and his blood-encrusted glaive was a harbinger of doom for those who dared stand in his path. And, amidst the swirling tempest of war, the shadowy figure known only as the Knight of Ash returned to the Hades Gate, his retinue of battle-hardened veterans trailing in his wake. Scarred by defeat and stained by shame, these berserkers of the Cinderhost were consumed by a singular obsession, the relentless pursuit of vengeance and redemption upon those who had wronged them. In the wake of Macrolore's fall, a tide of mortal acolytes had surged forth to join the Branded Zealots, their desperate souls yearning for purpose amidst the chaos of war. Bereft of a prophet or champion to worship, these wretched slaves grasped at any semblance of leadership, their souls drawn to the figure of the Last Sinner. Hundreds of aspirants crowded the rusted confines of dropships, clutching scavenged weapons and imbued with Frenzon, their ranks swelled by the wretched denizens dragged from the grim confines of the Ember's prison holds. Amongst this throng of the Forsaken, two champions emerged to vie for dominance. Barney, blessed by the fell hand of Khorne, stood as a towering colossus amongst the shipbound slaves, his commanding presence a beacon of ferocity amidst the clamour of battle. Yet, ever at his side, his blood brother Philip, leading his own pack of frenzied mortals, challenged his authority with fierce determination. Amidst those who marched as Branded Zealots was the dread presence of Marines claimed by the Neverborn, their unholy alliance a symbol of doom for the Hades Gate cluster. Drawn like moths to the searing flames of the warp, these possessed warriors, their very essence bound to the malevolent whims of chaos, found in the Last Sinner a beacon of infernal power to rally around. Amongst their ranks marched the revenants of the charnel pit, the few surviving remnants of Macrolore's personal retinue, their souls twisted and tormented by the insidious grip of demonic possession. No longer unified under a singular purpose, they roamed the battlefield as fragmented echoes of their former selves, locked in an eternal struggle against the ravages of the warp that threatened to consume their very essence. Beside them, newly claimed warriors, stained by the shame of defeat, succumbed to the siren call of oblivion, their minds fractured and their bodies nothing but vessels for the malevolent entities that now held sway. For them, the promise of release from their shame came at a terrible price, as their flesh became host to the grotesque puppetry of demonic influence, their very identities swallowed by chaos. Amidst this sea of writhing torment, walked the Pitmaster, a solitary beacon of sanity amidst the tide of madness, his soul untainted by the foul corruption that gripped his comrades. Bound by an oath of honour and duty, he strode with grim determination, a bulwark against the encroaching madness. And from the depths of the ember's cursed hold emerged the Entombed, a dark embodiment of the Cinder Host's most savage and unrestrained fury. Encased within baroque suits of Terminator plate, their tortured screams echoed across the battlefield as they descended upon their foes with merciless abandon. Mounted with grisly trophies and wielding weapons of flesh and iron, they carved a swathe of carnage in their wake, their very presence striking paralyzing fear into the hearts of all those who dared oppose them. In this desperate hour, the unleashing of such abominations spoke volumes of the Cinderhost's dire predicament. They had no choice but to unchain the very horrors that threatened to consume them, their allies as likely to fall beneath their wrath as their enemies. Bound by desperation and fueled by unrelenting fury, the Branded Zealots marched forth. Clad in the shroud of guilt and weighed down by the burdens of shame and defeat, they descended upon the Hades Gate cluster with a singular purpose burning within their anguished souls. Vengeance, a primal fire that raged unchecked within their embattled hearts, fueled their every step as they marched towards the crucible of conflict. For Macrolore, for the fallen, for the tarnished honour of the Cinder Host itself, they sought retribution with a fervour born of desperation and fury. Led by the fallen apostle, Chem Gregor, the last sinner, they knew no bounds to their wrath, no respite in their relentless pursuit of absolution. Yet, as they plunged headlong into the heart of the maelstrom, beset on all sides by the spectres of doubt and uncertainty, they faced a foe more formidable than any they had encountered before. Would the blind fury of the Branded Zealots be enough to shatter the defences of the Hades Gate cluster, or would their second assault be met with the same grim fate as before? In the fires of battle, where the line between victory and defeat blurred like ash upon the wind, the fate of the Hades Gate cluster hung in the balance, poised upon the precipice of oblivion. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed that little snippet of homebrew lore from my Warband, the Cinder Host, and specifically this army I brought to the Manchester GT, the Branded Zealots. If you have enjoyed this and you want to see more, make sure you drop a comment and leave a like on the video, or subscribe if you haven't already. It lets me know that this is the type of content that people enjoy. I hope it was a nice little accompaniment for you while you were painting, or maybe, doing some bits around the house, but I had a lot of fun putting this one together, so I would appreciate some love on this. Anyway, folks, until the next one, I've been Dara, and you've been watching The Red Path, so stay healthy, stay safe, and kill, maim, burn.